What is your favorite tower in Tower Defense Simulator? Is it the Scout, or is it the Elusive Accelerator, or maybe even the Archer? There are a handful of towers to use in each mode, ranging from some with good qualities to some with not so great qualities. But all these towers and modes have their ups and downs. But if you've been playing the game for a very long time, from 2019 to 2023, from the Area 51 event to the Final Land event, from the Gladiator to the Sledger, you've probably experienced what is the balancing issue with this game, one of the most controversial and problematic issues with the whole entire game. For some of you, it's probably the most hated thing in the game in your opinion, or it's probably one of the worst issues with the game in general. As usual, before we discuss this flow, we have to understand where it came from. So in the original beta release for TDS, there were 9 towers. All these 9 towers, including the Soldier, were actually pretty decent. Even with towers doing as low as 20 DPS, they were still good, ranging from easy mode to hard mode. And with towers such as the Gladiator, Commando, and Outlaw being added, this tower slowly shifted the meta into something a bit unbalanced. Now let me give a quick lesson on all 3 of these towers. The Gladiator, a tower added along with the Swords Fights and the Heights event, was a tower not similar to any Sly is to its updated counterpart in 2023. The Gladiator at its release only did 30 DPS, and had 2 abilities which were boosting its fire rate by 35% and boosting its damage by 100%. Now it seems like an amazing combo, but you need to understand this tower only did 24 damage, and both abilities only lasted for a measly 8 seconds. Now for the Commando, a tower added in the Area 51 event, which costed 32 grand and did a whopping 124 DPS, was by far the most overpowered tower in the game, having that high of a DPS. Having whopping 200 quad rocket launcher damage and 124 DPS, it's safe to say that this tower is one of the most overpowered towers in all of TDS. Now for the Outlaw, one of the most overpowered towers in all of TDS history, with a whopping 97 damage and 30 range combined with the towers such as the Commander and every boss just came a Purple Sun. With all these unbalanced towers being released, the game couldn't keep up with the addition of all these dual event maps and game modes being introduced to TDS, so the game was slowly unfolding. All these towers and game modes were being updated for quality, but not for balancing, so this just deeply sealed this flaw's fate for years to come. But then, the Mega Update happened, an update which completely changed the meta for all towers in TDS. The Commando, a once great starter tower now only doing 1/4 of its old DPS, was just truly sad. The Commander, a tower which could make towers fire as if they were going Super Saiyan, was nerfed to where the Commander stacking didn't work and was instead treating the Commander who we had today. And even the Outlaw, the once best tower in the game, was nerfed not so bad, as its usability came with the Commander. Alongside with this update, the Medic, a tower which could completely cleanse your towers of any stuns it received, but it became useless after it was revealed to only have a whopping 25 DPS, and it wasn't even immune to stuns back then, unlike the Medic we have today. Oh yeah, did I mention that the Gladiator tower was so bad that it literally was made unplayable? Yeah, that's what happened in this update. This tower was so bad, the developers literally had to make it unplayable in game, showing that this is turning for the worst. Now moved on to the following months. From these months, we got 9 new towers from the overall variety of events and small updates in preparation for the upcoming hardcore update. But these towers, like the ones from before, were one of the worst towers in the game's history. One of these towers was Electroshocker, a tower which did a horrible 0.33 repeated DPS at its base level, showing how unbalanced these towers were. But some like the Mortar did so much better in the game, just making a rockery of all the terrible towers in the game. But this overall just proved how bad this issue could evolve into over the years. October 29th, 2020, the actual hardcore update was released into the game and it was a disaster. But not because all the game mode changes or because of the tower removals, but rather because of the absurd amount of tower changes each tower received in the overall update. I'm sure you know how bad this update was for numerous towers. I mean, practically every single tower at the time was either quote-unquote buffed or nerfed, and they were all just really doomed. From towers being reworked to just being nerfed to the ground, this update was definitely one of the worst. Skipping to the Frost Invasion update, an update which supposedly buffed the mountain even without adding an ammo system to the tower. And then the Crook Boss, which was to the point where it's literally tower sealed in his coffin. But this is nothing compared to the Toxic Gunner. Wait, I know what you're gonna say. Toxic Gunner was OP back then, but that was due to a bug, which made the Toxic Gunner slow permanent, and it being allowed to slow bosses. But even after this was patched, you need to know that the Toxic Gunner only slowed enemies for a slow of 2% every shot, at a maximum of 10% slow. I mean, this tower is always bad, and no one really ever noticed it until this video. Nothing really happened balancing wise until the 21st of March of this year, where towers were actually buffed instead of just adding 1 damage at the max level. These people actually changed the game so amazingly. I mean, finally, these towers are actually usable now. Now that we understand the history of this problem, we have to understand why this really can't be fixed so easily. But to do that, we need to understand that if we buff towers for the newer levels too much, it'll be too OP for starter towers and will just be better than intermediate and advanced towers. My solution to this is just to do a huge overall update where each category has damage cap on it. For example, instead of having a 2 DPS, it could be changed to at least have a damage cap of 10 DPS, so that a tower could actually be good. Or the Hunter, another starter tower which could be buffed to have a lower fire rate and higher damage, but to cost more money to max this tower. It's just too hard to balance towers because if those easy to get towers just a minigun or 200 plus DPS, then towers just like Accelerator, Pursuit, or Industry would just not be worth the grind. So that's my fix for this ongoing problem with the game. But let me know if you have a better idea to fix this flaw in even more depth. But for now, I'll see you later.